Welcome to Casual Tech Review. I recently purchased a new RX 7900 GRE, the Asrock Steel Legend, when it came out from Newegg. And after I got it, I started to test out some of the various settings within the AMD drivers to try and maximize my performance. I posted a couple of previous videos on this. I'll throw some cards up in the top here so you can take a look at those if you like, if you haven't already seen them. But those kind of walk through my journey testing this card and some of the things that have gone right and the things that haven't. Throughout the whole time, you guys have left me some awesome comments, which I really appreciate. And we're going to go over a lot of that stuff in this video, as well as my updated preferred settings, some power and temperature data, which has been requested, and also some in-game performance. So let's dive into it. As I've continued to work with this card, I have developed and tested out some updated preferred settings, which are slightly different than how I had it. Here's a quick look at them. GPU frequency is the same, 2650 megahertz. I've got an undervolt of 0.965 volts or 965 millivolts, which is definitely much lower than I had it before. The VRAM, I've got it at 2390 megahertz with default timing. The fast timings don't work at all, and 2390 is pretty stable. And the power tuning, much to the chagrin of some people, I leave it default and have no problems. Throughout my previous videos, I received a couple of requests to include more specific temperature data and power consumption data from the various benchmarks. So let me just go over those now real quick. So first up, for the Heaven benchmark, you can see right here that the edge temperature high was 51 degrees Celsius, hotspot of 78 degrees Celsius, and the total board power. So it shows a little bit different here. This is measuring all the power pulled by the GPU is 316 watts. Next up is Superposition. Again, really similar. The edge temperature, 51 degrees Celsius with a hotspot of 79. Total board power of 362 watts. Next up is 3D Mark Timespy. And you can see here that this is 48 degrees around the edge and 78 degree hotspot, 383 watts of total board power. Again, all of these are at the new preferred graphic settings. Last but not least, pulling up the rear, 3D Mark Firestrike, 49 degrees edge, 77 degree hotspot temp, 384 total watts. So I threw together just a couple of quick charts to take a look at this data and compare it all. Here's the temperatures from all four of the benchmarks. It's all really similar within a couple degrees of each other. Something really interesting was pointed out to me, though, when I posted some of my previous charts. The Simple Way 1998, thank you very much for chiming in. He says he was watching my video and he noticed a big temperature delta on my hotspot, between my hotspot and my edge, rather. He also has a 7900 GRE. He has the Nitro Plus from Sapphire. He gets a temperature difference of about 30 degrees Celsius. You can see on mine, I am also really close to that, high 20s or even really close to 30. He said that's an RMA type of situation. So I have reached out to Asrock to see if I can get a comment from them. I linked some of my videos for them to take a look at. I will definitely let you know what they say. And finally, we have power consumption or total board power through these four benchmarks. I got a specific request from somebody who was concerned about their power supply being able to handle it. You can see here the power draw for these four tests, anywhere from 316 up to 384. Not too bad. I personally have a 750 watt Superflower LED X3 Gold, and I have no issues with power. So I received a comment in one of the videos I did to do some in-game benchmarking, and he specifically requested he would like to see Cyberpunk 2077 because of the ray tracing elements. So what I've done is I've run the benchmark on Cyberpunk through on the default settings with various upscaling and ray tracing enabled, as well as at my preferred settings, and then we'll compare and contrast some of the different results. So on this chart here, we're going to look at just the default out-of-the-box settings on the graphics card. You can see on the left, I indicate whether I'm using FSR or ray tracing, and it is just the stock ray tracing selection in the graphics settings, so it does not include path tracing, and it's medium ray tracing on everything. And you can see in the chart here that with default settings, ray tracing, unless you're going to have FSR off, is doable. You're going to get 57 frames per second if you have ray tracing on medium, and you also have FSR going to boost your frame rate a little bit. If you want to run no FSR, no ray tracing, you're getting 75 frames through the benchmark. I think that's pretty good. It'll be super playable, no problem. And if for some reason you want to turn FSR on, you're going to get 109. So I thought those were pretty good results, and these are the default out-of-the-box settings for this graphics card. If you run my preferred settings, obviously you're going to see an increase in performance. So if we look at this chart here, it's the same tests and same metrics for measuring them. Your no FSR, no ray tracing, you're getting 80 frames a second. FSR on, ray tracing off, you're getting 117. What I think is a really encouraging number, FSR on, ray tracing on, 61 frames per second. That is really, really good, solid, playable experience there, and you're going to be able to have all the benefits of that ray tracing performance. If you turn FSR off and try to run ray tracing, you're back down below 30 at 29 frames per second. So I cannot recommend that. So let me just compare them up against each other. First, my favorite graphical setting is FSR off, ray tracing off. The preferred settings are going to give you a 7% boost in performance from 75 frames all the way up to 80. Temperatures are almost identical, and power draw is almost identical. But yes, people do want to run ray tracing, and this card can do it. Here is the head-to-head comparison with ray tracing on and FSR on. I would not run this without FSR. And you're, again, going to get a 7% boost when you tweak the settings of the card to the preferred settings from 57 frames all the way up to 61. So, again, a really playable experience. Next up, I did a little bit of test against Starfield, and Starfield does not have a built-in benchmark. So I just went into the game and ran around a busy area with a lot going on, a lot of stuff in frame that it has to generate, and just kind of went with that and tried to repeat that as best I could. I know it's not perfect. It's just the best I could do. And for reference, I did do all of this on an ultra-wide 1440p monitor, if I forgot to mention that. So let's have a look at the chart here. Default settings. Starfield does not have ray tracing to test out, but it does have frame generation. So I tested with and without FSR and frame generation. And you can see the data here. My favorite way to play anything is no upscaling, no frame gen. That's why I like this card. And you can see at that, I get 68 frames per second, which is very playable in a game like Starfield. If you want to turn on FSR, again, this is all in the default settings. You want to turn on FSR, you're going to get 83 frames per second. And if for some reason you just want to max out your frames, yes, FSR, yes, frame gen, 141 frames at the default out-of-the-box settings. Switching over to the preferred settings, we're going to see an improvement here. No FSR, no frame gen, we're going to get 76 frames per second. FSR on, frame gen off, we're going to get 91 frames. Turn them both on, and the power is up to 411, but we're also getting 144 frames per second. And just by way of comparison, here's a chart comparing default versus preferred, no FSR, no frame gen, and the preferred is going to give you an 11% boost in performance, a little bit of tax on power. The temperatures are about the same, but you're going from 68 frames to 76 frames per second. Also somewhat relevant if you wanted a little bit better performance, you're turning on FSR within Starfield. Again, you're going to get an 11% boost in performance from the default to the preferred, from 83 up to 91 frames per second. A little bit more power, 381 to 345, but not a huge deal. Still very playable at both. So that is where things stand right now for me with the RX 7900 GRE. I've really enjoyed the card so far. It does everything I could want it to do, and then some. It handles a little bit of gaming that I may do. It handles my video editing and creating these videos and things that I'm doing here for YouTube. So I can't complain. A couple little things I could change about it, but again, at the price, it gives you an absolute boat ton of performance, and I'm really happy with it. I think I've answered most of the questions that I've gotten through this video or the other videos. If you have anything else you'd like to see me try to do with this card, absolutely drop a comment, let me know. I appreciate all the engagement with the likes and the comments and things. Please keep them coming. Subscribe if you like what we're doing here and some of the different things I've shown you. Thanks for watching.